section. Now we're going to start the debate. So close all of the laptops. Please close the laptops. Please close the laptop, please. Now, I will start the debate. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's debate. My name is Raina, and I will be serving as the chairperson in this debate. So, before I start the debate, I will introduce the committee and adjudicator. So there is Rafa Zani as the camera person, Mazaya as the timekeeper, and Farah and Kaisha as the adjudicator. And I will introduce the government and now the motion for today's debate is this house will make environmental education mandatory in all school curricula. Each speaker will be given 3 until 5 minutes to present their arguments. There will be also a replay speech for 2 until 3 minutes for each team. I will explain the time rules. So when Mazaya as the timekeeper holding up the number 1 sign, it means that 1 minute has passed. Same as the number 3 signs and number 5 signs. When the number 5 signs is up, it means your time is done. And I will start the debate from the speaker one, from the government teams. You have 5 minutes. The government teams, you have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes, and your times will start when you speak.
Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, good afternoon to the respected adjudicators and our esteemed opponent. My name is Ayesha, and I am the first speaker of the affirmative or the government team. So together with my teammate, we strongly support today's motion, which is this house would make environmental education mandatory in all schools curriculum. So implementing mandatory environmental education in schools is not a necessity but an option. So climate change, as we know, is getting very, very crucial nowadays. It doesn't only affect the welfare of the people, but it also affects the animals and the economy of the country. So it also provides an impact to the economy of a country. So climate change now results in changes in weather patterns as well as increasing sea levels, endangering biological diversity and the ocean, also affecting its economy. So environmental education in Indonesia faces challenges due to very limited education. And the bounded implementation of socializations about the following environmental problems. So implementing environmental education in Indonesia curriculum should be mandatory. By mandatory, we mean it should be a required component of the national education system. It must not be treated as an optional or extra topic, rather it should be focused. So, our first argument, Indonesia ranks as the second largest plastic polluter in the world next to China. And why? Because education has never been a priority here. The government here focuses on giving free lunches instead of focusing on education, which can be the first step for a good environment. This makes Indonesian human resources weaker. Real changes starts with education. If we don't teach students about sustainability, we are only delaying disaster. Environmental education isn't a career training. It's a life training, just like math. It's not just for future accountant, but environmental education is about developing responsible citizens for a better environment. Okay, so now our second and third argument will be discussed by our second speaker. But before that, I want to give a short summary of what the second and third argument will be speaking. So the second argument will be integrating it shouldn't be a burden to students because it would eventually give a good effect. If we implement it into already existing subjects, it might not guarantee an effective result. And the third argument will be it will create more jobs, like for teachers and trainers to actually eventually help about the about the giving education for the students. Okay, so that's it for me. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you from the speaker one from the government team. And now, please, the speaker one from the opposition teams. And you have 5 minutes, and the time will start when you speak.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable, the adjudicators and the committee, and also the government team. I'm Yuana Mutiara Zahra as speaker one from the opposition team, and Zalfa as speaker two, and also reply speech, and the last one is Razan as speaker three. So we as opposition team against the motion this house would make environmental education mandatory in all school curricula. So, making environmental mandatory in Indonesia, schools curricula is good to equip future generation with SDGs 13 on climate action. As you guys said, integrating education, environmental education into exciting subject makes learning more engaging and practical. But we can just integrate environmental education and we don't have to make it into standalone mandatory course. So there are why environmental education should not be mandatory. Okay, the first one, environmental issues concern differs significantly across regions and overly general discussion will not open up students' mind to concerns about their surrounding areas. To be effective, each curriculum must be relevant to their surrounding environmental mandatory. Indonesia consists of thousands of islands with diverse conditions. With national standards, all students can have a broader understanding of interconnected global environmental issues. And the second, by making environmental education mandatory, there is a risk that other important subjects can empirically state that an already packaged curriculum makes it difficult for implementing environmental education effectively as it competes with other priorities. Lastly, it's important to emphasize that contributing to SDG 13, but making environmental education mandatory at the national level is not the only nor the most effective way to create an environmental conscious generation. What matters more is ensuring that our education system remains contextual, relevant, and doesn't compromise other essential pillars of learning. So we can just only integrating environmental education with make it into standalone mandatory course because it can make the other subject cannot be focused because we all only focus about the climate change. That's all from me. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. And now, I would like to call the speaker two from the government team. Please come forward. You have 5 minutes, and your time will start. 3, 2,
Hello, is my voice audible?
Okay.
I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can choose to change the world by Nelson Mandela. And today, the world is on fire, like literally. And it's hope for a generation that must be equipped, which means education. I'm Raya from the government team and this house would make the environmental education mandatory in all school curricula. Before we start into our argument, we'd like to rebut the first speaker from the opposition team. First of all, we never mentioned that EE should be a standalone. We literally stated that we wanted to integrate EE into existing subject. Well, that's a contradiction to your team. It means you support our argument. Okay, now let's start with our second argument, which is integrating EE into existing subject wouldn't burden students, but making learning more engaging. So rather than adding, EE can enhance topic, linking chemistry to carbon emissions, and also EE shifts memorization to real-world applications. And so here are some proof that from Finland consistently ranked top in global education assessment, the report PISA from 2022, and also the study from Stanford students that the students who study EE into existing subjects could improve more science and literacy. And then we also need to know the fact that Indonesia is ranked 69 out of 79 countries of the assessment in educations. And now we're going to prepare the worst scenario from our side. The opposition might say that it could be led to shallow understanding. Well, integration doesn't mean dumping extra content, but it's contextualizing existing topics. Example, teaching combustions in chemistry, and also linking into carbon emissions takes zero time and add relevance. Indonesia's current curriculum is curriculum merdeka. So integrating EE education into existing subject would support curriculum merdeka. And we want to prepare for the worst scenario from the opposition team. So the second one is EE dilutes the depth of core subject. Well, EE is not an extra subject, but they're embedded into the science and it deepens the student understanding. We're going to prepare the third worst scenario from the opposition team. The opposition team might say teachers are untrained. And well, ladies and gentlemen, integration is a gradual system, so it's not a whole new thing which you put some money into it. But no, well, integrating is a gradual reform, so supported by teacher training through platforms such as governments, Rongru, and other stuff. And now we'll prepare for the fourth worst scenarios. The opposition might say that it worsens inequality. Well, ladies and gentlemen, EE empowers rural students by teaching local environmental stewardship. As we know, most of the rural students are live in nature place, which is like lack of technology. Well, that means rural is also often closer to nature, which actually means that EE can be the great options for rural students. Well, that's it from the second argument. That's why we deserve to win. That this house would make environmental education mandatory in all school curricula. Thank you so much.
Thank you from the speaker 2 from the government team. And now we will continue with the speaker 2 from the opposition team. Please come forward. You have 5 minutes, and your time starts when you speak.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the time and for all of the attention, especially for our educators. I'm Zafar from opposition team, and I'm going to rebut Raya and Ayesha's argument that Ayesha said that education doesn't be the priority aspect in Indonesia. Of course, yeah, I agree with that. So we have to focus in that point first at raising education quality first and ability. So we don't have to embrace our topic to environmental issues because we can do that program if we are not having good education qualities. So yeah. we can see that Raya has given that Finland, which is country that integrate EE into subject, consistently ranked top in global education assessment of PISA. Yeah, but we can see that Finland already run effectively the education because of the best education system that they have. But it's different with Indonesia. Yeah, we know that it's different. We can see from the data that is already that only 70% of child in Indonesia is schooling. So it shows that an equality of education in Indonesia. So we we focus first on education of Indonesia before we can embrace to the environmental issues. Yeah, some factor of cause of low quality of Indonesia education include low quality of teachers and inequality of school facilities and lack of equality in the quality of education. So our argument that already given is makes sense that environmental education mandatory in all school curricula is not necessary. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. And now, I would like to call the speaker 3 from the government team. Please come forward. You have 5 minutes, and your time will start when you speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So by 2030, the International Labour Organization on Green Economics expect 24 million jobs. Well, what happened to Indonesia? We're still left behind. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Raya. I'm hereby to stand, and I'm from the government team, proud to support that this house would make environmental education mandatory in all school curricula. So before I'm starting to our argument, I would like to rebut from the second speaker of oppositions. So the second speaker always mentioned that Indonesia's education is kind of failure. Well, it's true, but you do need to realize that education pushes citizens for better policy. It creates generation of voters, leaders who understand and act on environmental act. You see what happened to Indonesia right now. They don't get any proper education of environmental education. And what you see, Indonesia is ranked as the second most polluted waste plastic in the sea. And we have done nothing about it. We just keep changing curriculums and curriculums. Well, this is the solution from us that disaster, even though the disaster come from government failure, it's because they haven't got the foundational education. Everything starts from education. Every policy made by government, everything starts by education. And you keep saying that integrating EE into a subject, it would actually burdens the education. Well, if that burdens you, then what's your solution? You never mention any solution. Well, this is our solution, our government team solution to integrate EE into existing subjects. And we have also give all the solutions, and it won't burden students. And now we're going to rebut the second opinion. You said that Germany, Poland succeeded due to like investment, not integrating environmental education. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we need to know that EE is the part of foundation. Well, their green transition is supported by an education system supporting sustainability, which actually means, yes? Okay. Thank you very much for your POI. I don't really get clearly what you mean by Germany. Doesn't have enough energy, but maybe the data you're using is the old data, because now what we're seeing, we're using the most current data that Germany and Poland is now succeed by transforming their green transition. Okay, so what we're seeing in now aspect is today's status quo, not the old status quo. um, so maybe your team needs to do more research. Okay, now we're jumping on to our arguments. So EE prepares students for future job market. So the world is shifting towards, and sustainable and industry are getting like become a trend for us now. But what happened to Indonesia? We're left behind. And even Indonesia government spent 100 trillion rupiah on disaster recovery, and caused mainly by our mismanagement, by ourselves, which is so pathetic. That's why we need to prepare students to integrate EE to existing subjects, so they could have like the foundational awareness. Okay, that's going to be correlated to our worst case. So we're gonna be giving worst case scenario. The opposition team might say that EE doesn't give job ready skills, but instead it's vocational school that give them. Well, ladies and gentlemen, EE actually builds foundational awareness. Students must first care about green issues before choosing related careers. So, if you're saying vocational high school, how can they be focused on their vocational schools when they haven't realized the um, foundation, and also what happened in Indonesia? So, we actually need to tell them what is the status quo of Indonesia right now, and what is the urgency of Indonesia, not just like some fancy FOMO in like um, vocational school trend or something. Well, we need to see our current status right now. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Raya from a government team, and we're proud to support this motion that this house would make environmental education mandatory in all school curricula. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we move on to the reply speech. Reply speech. Oh yeah. We move on to the speaker tree from the opposition team. You have 5 minutes, and your time will start very.
My speech starts in 3, 2, 1. So I'm Razan from I'm what? I'm Razan from the third speaker of the opposition team, and I will I will state the argument for my speaker. Uh, so while you just say that environmental education, but you forgot the last part. The last part you say in the school curricula. So when you say rural regions, like some the other speakers say, rural regions have study environmental education from their homes. That you forgot that it's not from school. It's all from the. It's not a formal curriculum. It's just they're studying it in nature, like yeah. And EE also while in Indonesia, does EE is as a foundation of education cannot uh, does it does EE as a foundation of education uh, can can make education effective to Indonesia. Well, so and also regions from Indonesia differs from education for education. So my point is that uh, the, the the people, like especially from rural regions, uh, didn't need EE from school. They need environmental education from other stuff, like maybe uh like in like in nature. But from the school, it's not important. It's not mandatory to put environmental education in schools. And mm, and even so, when you force schools to make EE mandatory, well, environmental education still takes time, and already compacted like school that we have right now doesn't have the time and space to support the environmental education. So while because of this, but you also doesn't want to go to school all day, like, right? You just you got you the students also need to rest, and to add extra time for environmental education. So my solution is that uh, our solution from the opposition team is that uh, is to prioritize like the most important subjects, like 14 or maybe like 12 dozen dozens of more important subjects from regions, not making it mandatory to all of the school from Indonesia. So that's it's for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we move on to the reply speech session. It will start from the opposition teams. Please. Opposition team. Opposition teams. You have 3 minutes, and your time will start.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Zalfa from the opposition team as a reply speech. So thank you for the time, and as an observer, I will now deliver the reply speech following the third speaker from the opposition team. First, I would like to commend both strong and insightful debate from the government team, highlight the importance of mandatory environmental education to raise awareness and prepare future generation. Their arguments were passionate and good, and however, the opposition team effectively point out the practical challenges such as local relevance and curriculum overload. They propose more flexible and context-based alternative. So, uh, I would say that the opposition team should win this debate because we talk this topic due to our topic limitation. That is, we talk about environmental education in Indonesia. So we have to look deeply inside of Indonesian perspective and real-time condition. Maybe environmental education, it can be the last option on the real time. But to go for that, we have to make a bridge to go there, that we have to rising an education qualities from promoting and giving education for all of child in Indonesia who live in the diversity of region in Indonesia. Maybe that's all for me. Thank you for the debate and see you.
And now I would like to call the reply speech from the government team. Please come forward. You have 3 minutes, and your time will start.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, to honorable adjudicators, to the opponents and to the opponent team and the government team, as well as the audience. So today's debates comes down to one simple question: how can we have a better environment through education? So the government side that has the best address about this debate deserves to win. The government team arguments are stronger because they are stronger, and they also rebutted all of the opposition's team's arguments, as well as gave solutions. So, okay, I'm gonna tell you why. First, the opponent team stated that that there's a risk that the other subject or the already existing subject will be left behind. That's a no. Like we said, if this is mandatorily, it can be balanced. Already existing subjects wouldn't be left behind if it is teach balance in balance. That's literally something that is that's literally something that is controllable. So it doesn't environmental education doesn't compete with core subjects, but it enhances them. So if the government team chooses to invest more, if the government chooses to invest more in this environmental education, it could guarantee a much effective result. So don't you all agree that making a move is better than actually making none? So educated students become future voters, workers, and consumers. So in other words, education empowers civic action. By educating students, they could actually make a move. So think about it. If the government chooses to educate students mandatorily about the effect of the climate change, the negative effects specifically, the students would actually take action if they learn the disadvantages. So again, the government team is deserving to win as they as a as the team as the government team rebutted all of the opposition's team arguments, as well as gave solutions. Okay, so I think that's it from me. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you. And the debate is over. Thank you for all of your arguments, and I will hand it to the educators. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Aku paling susah.